Well, there's certainly a long history of moving oil tankers on the coast of British Columbia. I think the records show quite clearly that we've been handling tankers for around 60 years. And to the best of my knowledge, there have been no incidents involving oil tankers on the coast of British Columbia. And I think this is great testimony to the skills of our mariners and our British Columbia pilots, that they have been moving these vessels over several generations without incident. And of course, in the early part of those years, it was with the most basic navigational equipment on the bridges of those vessels compared to what is available today. So what has happened over I would say, the last 20 to 25 years is that technology enhancement in terms of how we manage ships traffic, how we equip ships bridges, how we communicate, all those things have really come into their own to increase the safety levels. What has also happened in the intervening time, of course, is the Exxon Valdez incident back in 1989. And a number of lessons resulting in legislation came out of that incident. Well, when I started as a mariner, as a young cadet, 16 years of age, most ships had radar, but it was up to the individual ship owner. And some ships, for that reason, did not have radar. The owners of ships at that time, not all of them were convinced that radar was a useful navigational aid. Likewise, if you did have radar, a master may or may not allow it to be switched on at certain times, whereas today the radars will be running 24 hours a day whenever the ship is at sea. The instrumentation at that time was very basic. Going beyond that, of course, we did not have GPS until the late 1970s, early 1980s. So a typical vessel coming onto the coast of British Columbia could have been at sea for a number of days without an exact fix of position. So you could often be a few miles from where you calculated you were on the approach to British Columbia or any other coastline. That doesn't happen today. You know exactly where you are all of the time. It must also be said that the level of tug assist was far less than it was, but of course the ships in the first few years of moving oil out of British Columbia, they themselves were also smaller, so the tugs were probably adequate for the time. But it's really reassuring to see that as the ships have grown in size, so too has the safety mitigation, and in particular the size of tugs that are escorting those tankers. But the record itself is impeccable, and we as a marine industry are absolutely determined that it will remain impeccable.